Are the gods all loving? Or even loving in general? This is a hotly debated topic in the Hellenic polytheist space. Well, maybe not debated, but it is a controversial topic. I think, at least. I mean, it's been a while since I've been really interacting with my fellow polytheists, which is bad, I know. But when I do see a lot of hot takes about this. So, why not turn it into a video? So today we're going to talk about my opinion on it, and we're going to walk through the reason on why I think what I think. I'm your host of the most, and today we're talking about whether or not the gods are loving, whether they're all loving or just loving in general. So if you watch my videos, you might be able to guess my opinion on this. Generally, yes, I do think that the gods are loving. How exactly? Well, back in the day, like a year ago, I thought that yes, generally the gods are loving, but not to everyone. In the way that they don't love people that they quote unquote don't know, or I don't know if you're evil or something. But as you've heard, I've since changed this belief, like yesterday. Probably more recently than that, but I haven't thought about it since when I first came up with that first idea that no, the gods are not all loving, but they are loving like to small groups of people. And then I kind of thought about it more when I came up with this video idea. So it really showed me how I did change my beliefs in that. Nowadays, I honestly believe that the gods are generally all loving. I say generally just because I am human, so just like how people in other religions generally feel, I really can't wrap my head around the gods loving every single person, including people who are genuinely evil, but I know that's not up to me. And again, I got my belief challenged by this hymn to Zeus that I discovered by Clintas, I think it is. And I'll be reading part of it, and at the end of the video, we'll read the whole hymn. Not a single thing that is done on earth happens without you, God, nor in the divine heavenly sphere, nor in the sea, except for what bad people do in their foolishness. But you know how to make the crooked straight and bring order to the disorderly. Even the unloved is loved by you. For you have so joined all things into one, the good and the bad, that they all share in a single unified everlasting reason. And I found this hymn on Tumblr, and the original poster was quoting the part that says, "Even the unloved is loved by you." At first, I thought it would have been a reference to people who are orphans, poor, or just whoever would have been considered unwanted in ancient Greece / I guess Rome as well. But this is talking about, well, another type of unwanted people, but people who do bad things. And this is not the only thing that made me rethink my thoughts about this particular topic, but it really solidified my thoughts on this. To be honest, I've come to the conclusion that I can't really decide, or anyone can't decide, who or who is not loved by the gods. Just like how you see in other religions, it leads down a bad pathway of some people trying to use that, oh, God doesn't love you because of this reason, on people who you shouldn't be using that on, people who don't deserve it, or to further their own beliefs. And then going back to the hymn, for this love that I think the hymn is talking about, and how I see it, it's not really the love that we think of, like affection or romantic or platonic love. How I see it is as you love someone enough to want them to get better and wanting to guide them in the right direction. This also leads to my other point I wanted to dismiss, the gods not loving people that they don't know. Now, realistically, I kind of stopped thinking about what I really believe in this case, but to be honest, I do think the gods had, at the very least, a small hand in all of our creations, if not being 100% responsible for it. So, following that thought, it would be impossible for them not to know us. Plus, I think when I first had this thought, I was still viewing the gods in a human-like way, limiting them and my understanding of them. Obviously, the gods can know more people than a regular human, so again, that previous thought doesn't really make sense. Anyway, the too long didn't read is that yes, I believe the gods are generally all loving. Now, like I said in the intro, this is more of a controversial thought, at least from what I can see, and I think this is for many reasons. One, a lot of people think that this thought is too close to Christianity / other Abrahamic religions, and two, a lot of people can't believe that the gods can be all loving because of all the bad in the world. This is actually a common thing to believe. You may have heard many people say that the universe, for one example, is either neutral or actively malevolent and working against people. And of course, you're allowed to believe what you believe, but it is annoying to see others denouncing others' loving experiences of the gods and I guess just the universe in general. And I also think that this belief also comes from nihilism and people just being a doomer. And yes, like I said, people can believe what they want, but honestly, I just can't take people seriously who say things like the universe is actually evil, or I guess even neutral, because it's just really odd to me. So I think they're all just doomers in my opinion. But anyway, to explain my thought process more, I actually started reading this book, and the introduction alone confirms and also expands my mindset. And this book is Jewels of Remembrance, which is basically the translated poems of Rumi, and the introduction is wrote by Kabir, Helminski, and Camille, Helminski. And this part is particularly from the introduction from Kabir. The modernist dogma has it that this is an impersonal material universe, a universe which is more darkness than light, more cold than warmth, more vacuum than substance. Furthermore, many people feel that the random, isolated conscious at the heart of each human life is threatened by vast forces that do not recognize its fragile existence. For those with spiritual vision, however, we are living in an infinite ocean of spirit. This whole universe is a manifestation of cosmic love. The universe is an expression of love. We live in an ocean of love, but because it is so near to us, we need to look beyond appearances, beyond our preconceptions, and sometimes we need to be shocked, hurt, or experience some loss in order to be aware of the nearness of and importance of love. Every being and thing in creation is set in motion by love. The planets revolve around the sun, and the sun radiates its energy to the planets. Atoms are held in the delicate but immensely powerful balance of love. Every species has its own form of love or desire which motivates it. Every human being has its own unique form of love through which it approaches life. Everything is seeking union with the object of its desire. And all these desires are derivatives of one love. Love is the motivation behind every yearning. Love is seeking to discover itself. This describes what is happening in all of life. We come into this world and we experience a profound forgetfulness. We are asleep. Everything that happens from then on is the process of waking up to the fact that love brought us here, that we are loved by a beneficent, unseen reality, and that the core of our being is love. The whole purpose and meaning of creation is to discover the secret of love. Love is both mystery and knowledge. Furthermore, it is a mystery that has spoken to us about itself in the form of those revelations that have profoundly altered the course and quality of human history. The lives and teachings of Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad, among others, have influenced and transformed so many billions of people because they are essentially teachings of love. The experience of love is the most fulfilling and important experience we can have, the highest of all values. We can't compare love to anything. It is its own meaning and its own criteria. Since everything is explained by something subtler than what is being explained, nothing can explain love because love itself is the subtlest of experience that we can experience. Love is seeking us. Love brought us here, whether we know it or not. Love nudges us to make plans, to seek relationship, to create possibility of meeting hearts. It puts pen to paper. It puts a word on the tongue. Love itself is not the goal of anything. It is the cause of everything. A bit of a long quote, but to be honest, it's also what inspired this video. So I think it's fair to read the whole thing. Back on topic, like I said earlier, a lot of people think that the idea that the gods are all loving was taken from Christianity / other Abrahamic religions. And as seen in my very first quote, it's just not true. It was a belief before Christianity was even a thing. And then we also can't say that it was a super popular belief, and we also can't say it's a super unpopular belief, because religion in ancient Greece was highly personal outside of festivals and stuff, and there was no book on what was right or what was wrong to believe about the gods, except for the basics of Xenia and Charis. Besides festivals, people would just offer as needed, out of respect, or out of a deep love, or just because they needed. But out of respect and love, for example, there was an old woman who was recorded going to a temple every day and making an offering every day. One of my very favorite examples. I think I brought it up before. And while we have never heard a reason exactly for doing this, her story and others like it, we can assume that it was done out of a deep love or respect or loyalty or all of the above. And it's not hard to believe that they would have assumed the same with the gods. And this video can be quote heavy, so but beware y'all, I got another quote for you. According to Orsi, devotionalism made the divine really there in the everyday lives of individuals. The ongoing relationship people and sacred figures formed with one another was emotionally charged and personal, aided by the ability of men and women to identify with the inhabitants of heaven based on shared appearances and life experiences. People approach these powerful figures on issues of great emotional importance and at moments of distress, seeking direct and tangible aid. This then is the phenomenon of devotionalism, a religious mode that implies a close relationship between gods and worshippers, a relationship marked by mutual affection and obligation. And these quotes all come from a book based on personal religion in ancient Greece, which is called Devotionalism, Material Culture, and the Personal Greek Religion by K.A. Rask. The sense of reciprocity, so evident in literature and epigraphical sources, however, often went beyond the transactional, towards the exceptionally intimate and sentimental attachments. The idea of a protective divinity personally concerned with a human worshipper was already apparent in the Homeric poems, and Mary Lefkowitz comments that Sappho describes a personal relationship with Aphrodite that appears to be both intense and personal. Textual references refer to daemons and other sorts of helpful and personal spirits, while the visual arts show gods watching over their worshippers, much as Athena does with her potters. Those practicing Orphic and Bacchic burials hope for a closeness to the divine that included divine protection in the afterlife. Equally close were those gods who came in dreams, described hovering at the shoulders of the dreamers with gentle smiles. And inscriptions, they were Persetai, gods who stood beside their worshippers. Not only were such interactions marked with genuine affection, but there was a physical aspect as well, with the divine figure touching the human figure with a hand. And Klockner comments, the closeness of the human-divine encounter finds its clearest expression when a god touches humans. As you can see by the quotes I spammed you with many ancient Greeks, they had a close relationship with the gods that implied mutual affection. And of course, there were some people who only offered to the gods for help with certain things or at certain times in their lives, but there are many more people who built up close and personal relationship with the gods, especially at home. Likewise, the gods could be found within the relationships individuals built, maintained, and destroyed with others, especially family. Families and the Ikios developed their own close and intimate interactions with particular deities, both with and in addition to the spirits immediately located at the home. The gods were there at the house after all. Apollo Aryevs at the door, Hestia at the hearth, Zeus in the courtyard and the pantry. Y'all, I'm sorry. I must have been tweaking bad when I was recording the video. First, all the clicking noises, and second, now for some reason I called Zeus Zes. It's meant to say Zeus in the pantry, not Zes. I'm sorry. Ultimately, I believe that the gods are generally loving because of all they've done for us. While yes, deities do benefit from our offerings, but I know we can all truly see that they don't need these or our worship. The gods created the world, and so why would they need us to offer a part of the world back to them? I feel like out of love for humanity, the gods established their worship. Everything that they do for our sake, mostly. And like I said, everyone's opinion is their own, and you're allowed to have it, but thinking of the gods, the universe, or the divine in general, etc., as just a cold and impartial observer, or terribly just doing things for the sake of offerings, is just incredibly bleak to me, especially as worshippers. I just don't think that mindset is helpful at all. And like I said earlier, this part of the problem does come from people trying to humanize the gods. Compared to other religions, Hellenic polytheists, or just pagan people in general, tend to humanize their gods. It can be fine sometimes, but it also leads to them assigning traits and emotions to the gods which they just don't have. I used to have a problem as well, but so I'm not ragging on anyone. But I think we all just need to realize that the gods are the gods at the end of the day, and they are gods. So they are beings beyond our comprehension. We'll never truly understand their ways, and we can't speak for them. Anyway, these are just my thoughts. If you disagree, or if you have anything to add, just put it down below. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. And like I said earlier, today's hymn is going to be to Zeus, the full hymn that I read part of earlier. This one is actually pretty long, so you gotta bear with me here. Most honored of immortals, many named one, ever omnipotent, Zeus, prime mover of nature, steering all things by your law, greetings. For it is proper for all mortals to speak to you. For we all descend from you, bearing our share of your likeness, we alone, of all mortal creatures that live and move on earth. So I shall make song of you constantly and sing forever of your might. Truly, this whole universe spinning around the earth obeys you whenever you lead and willingly submits to your rule. Such is the servant you hold to your unconquerable hands, a double-edged, fiery, ever-living thunderbolt. For it strikes all the works of nature happen. By it you direct the universal reason, which pervades all things, intermixing with the great and the small light of the heavens. Because of this, you are the greatest and the highest ruler of all. Not a single thing that is done on earth happens without you, God, nor in the divine heavenly sphere, nor in the sea, except for what people do in their foolishness. But you know how to make the crooked straight, and to bring order to the disorderly. Even the unloved is loved by you. For you have so joined all things into one, the good and the bad, that they all share in a single, unified, everlasting reason. It is shirked and avoided by all the wicked among mortals, the wretched who ever long for the getting of good things, neither see nor hear God's universal law, by which, obeying with understanding, they could share in the good life. But instead, they chase after this and that, far from the good, some in their aggressive zeal for fame, others with the disordered obsession with profit, still others in indulgence and the pleasurable exertions of the body. They desire the good, but they are carried off here and there, all the while in zealous pursuit of completely different outcomes. But bountiful Zeus, shrouded in dark clouds and reeling in thunder, protect human beings from their ruinous ignorance. Scatter it from our souls, that we may obtain true judgment on which you rely to steer all things with justice. So that having one honor, we may honor you in turn, constantly singing of your works, as it is proper for mortals to do. For neither mortals nor gods have any greater privilege than to make everlasting song of the universal law of justice. I love you all, the gods love you all, and you have a good rest of your day or night. Bye!